Hi team. So welcome to the session. So in this session, right, so we are going to see the source control management, and then the next topic is continuous inspection. So the last meeting itself, we have some overview about the source control, and after that we have left. But so from there we are going to start. Okay, and so the main agenda for this our training today is like, so we are going to see the overview about the source control management. And yeah, as I checked with you earlier, maybe most of them are new to Git, and also the Git is very important. So in a DevOps, so how we are going to create the repositories, managing the branches, policies, securities, everything. So that we are going to, so first we are going to see the basics of Git, and then I'm going to show how I'm installing in my local machine. And we are going to create some repositories, and we are going to initialize from the Azure repos. We are going to clone, and then I am going to modify some changes, and from there I am going to push it to the remote repository. And you can see, so maybe what are all the things we are able to see and all. And apart from that, maybe we are going to see how to configure the branching policies, and how we can secure the branches. So those things we are going to see. And then the next topic is the continuous inspection. So as part of the continuous inspections, and what are all the things we need to do, like the code review, and then what are all the most popular tools in terms of maybe the inspection and all. And so there are two major things like SAST and DAST. So application security. So this is the static application security testing, and then the next one is dynamic application security testing. And so there are many tools. Maybe we cannot walk through each and every one, but the one most maybe the widely used is the Sonar Cube, the Sonar Cloud. So we are going to take one example of the Sonar results page, and then we are going to see maybe what are all the metrics it is showing, and what are all the options it is giving for maybe users to configure. So those things we are going to see. So I think hope you are maybe good on the agenda. So we will get started. Okay. So yeah, so the source control management, we already see that one. Like so there are many tools for managing the code, like maybe versioning the code, right? So for example, we cannot simply write we can't have all the code in our any remote folder or in our local maybe mission. So that's not the good practice, right? So we need to be properly versioned, because the multiple team members, they will be working on the same repository, and there are multiple chances for the code conflict. So we have to resolve them. And also maybe if there is any accident coding changes or deletion, so at the time the we need to get the previous working code back. So those are the things it has to do. And also we need to have the auditing, like who has changed the code when and for which task they have made the changes. And then even so we need to have some control mechanism that, so whenever it is we are moving to the main branch, we need to have some approval flow. Like so if we are a fresher, maybe even we are not good about the coding and all, right? So maybe at the time we are just evolving, so that so in between the peer developer or the TL or someone, they have to review the code, and then after that only we will be able to maybe merge the code with main branches. And from there we will be running the build to deploy in any other environment. Okay, so basically the dev environment, you will have a full permission. For other environment, right, like the QA, UAT and production, so that will be run from the main branches only. Okay. And so the number of branches and number of environments, so that is specific to the projects and then the company. So maybe we can say like there, maybe they will constantly, they will have at least four, like dev, QA, UAT and production. And sometimes for the production itself, they will have a two environment, like they will be having the two data center, or they will be having like the pre-production and then production, and then they will have a UAT one too. So sometimes they will combine both dev and QA in the same environment. So there are many things that can happen. Okay. And so the next one is the centralized and the distributed version control system. So in earlier days, so the we had like a centralized version control system. The one of the example is the team foundation version control. So this will comes under the centralized version control. The distributed, so the Git and all will be comes under the distributed version control. So nowadays the popular one is the Git, the Azure, maybe the TFVC and all. So the earlier they were using, but now because of the many of the features that Git is providing, so most of them they are migrating from the team foundation to the Git version control. So I'm just saying for one example. So earlier, right, the centralized source control. Okay, so you will have all the source code maintained in the one centralized server. So for example, if you want to make some XYZ in one file, okay, so you want to check out first, and then after that only you need to maybe check in the coding changes. Okay, so for example, you have checked out the one code called maybe the service.java, that file you have checked out. So maybe even the many other developers, right, they cannot push their coding changes. So once you have completed the changes, then only others can do that. And one of the other maybe the disadvantage I'm thinking, like for example, right, if you don't have any internet connectivity, then you cannot do anything. So whenever you have the internet connectivity, or like maybe whenever you have the good connection from your local machine to the team foundation version control, that server, so then only you can push the code, so at least others can, after that they can make the changes. So there are many dependencies, right? But from the Git and all, so all those problem and all, it will be resolved, like for so they here also they will be having the centralized code in the remote server. But in all of the local machine, right, for all the developers local machine also, they will be having the own copy. Okay, so that they can just complete the coding the changes in their local machine. And then they since they have the maybe all the other branches also in their local machine, they can just merge it, and then whenever they are okay, they can push it to the remote. Okay, so maybe when we are pushing it to remote, right, maybe the others also they can pull to their local machine, and then they can start working on it. So these are all the maybe the comparison between the centralized and distributed. But mostly, right, you don't need to go to the centralized one, but nowadays, right, so all of them they are going to Git. Okay, the distributed version control system. So you can just learn the Git. So there are even this Git itself maybe very vast topic. So maybe you have to, maybe I will cover some of the basics things, and then the branching strategy. But mostly for a successful scenario, mostly those basics, and then if you are configuring the correct strategy, right, so that is fine. But maybe when we are running into some kind of issues, maybe, right, so for example the dev team, they will override all the codes. Okay, so at the time maybe they don't know, so because they are not aware of the Git, so that's why they have maybe they have deleted all the previous changes, they have moved some of the wrong code there. Okay, so at the time, so you only have to maybe go back to the particular commit point, you have to revert to the particular commit point. So from there they can start working on it. So there are many scenarios that can happen, so we need to be ready. So for that we need to have a good understanding in the Git. Okay, so the next one is the Git futures, like what it is giving. Okay, the maybe the, for example, we cannot say like it is the Git future. The Git is just like maybe the normally we can modify the change, we can push it, pull, those things we can do. But we have the other tool, right, like Azure Repos, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. So those and all the hosting platform for Git repositories. Okay, so on top of the Git, they are providing some of the features like pull requests, the branching policies, and maybe hooks, and then the, so all those things they are providing. So this is a very easy to use at the enterprise level. So maybe even we are minimizing so much of manual efforts, so that actually using our process. Okay, so like the pull request, so that is for the merge request. So when you are raising to any maybe when you want to merge from your branch to main branch, right? So at the time you will be raising the pull request, and in between some of the approvers will review the code, and then they will provide the comments. And if everything is good, then maybe you can merge the code with the main branch. Okay, so from there onwards, the automatic build happen, and then it will be deployed into some other environment and all. Okay, so the next thing is the branching policies. So the branching policies, maybe if you are providing, we have to set up some policies, right? If you are giving maybe the access to everyone in our team, even if they did accidentally, if they did some kind of the deletion, so that is very the hard to roll back and all, right? So those scenarios we have to avoid, like maybe the code conflict, those scenarios if you want to avoid, we need to set up maybe correct branching policies, like so always the two peoples need to review, and at least one time the build has to successful. So the when we are raising the pull request, so the sonar quality results page, those all of the things needs to be clean, maybe the clean. So those kind of the policies we can set it up there, so that maybe the at the earliest time itself we can detect the issue. Maybe we don't want to go like maybe we have deployed to production or UAT, and there only we are finding some kind of coding smells and best practices we are not we are missing. So those kind of issues we cannot find at the maybe the UAT or production stage. It mostly, right, we have to fix it in the developer environment. So if the developer is missed, then at least we have to detect those kind of issues in the build stage itself. If there is any issue, we have to fail the build, and then we need to ask them to work on it. Okay. So the next is maybe the hierarchy we already discussed, or and maybe under the Azure DevOps organization, right? So we will have a many projects. Under a project, we will have a many repositories, and under the branches, we will have a many. Under the repository, we will have the many branches. Okay, the branches means like maybe the different version of code. Like for example, so two people working in the same project. Okay, so both of them they will be working in the different user story, so in the different branch. So when they have completed the task, they can just merge the code, and after that they can push it. So maybe if all of them working in the same branches, right, so maybe there is a many chances for code conflict. So that is why, so we have to leverage the branches there. Okay, and then maybe so we'll see the maybe how to install the local setup. And then these are all the basic commands, like init, clone, add, commit, and push and pull and merge. So show how to install the Git. So that is very simple steps only. Like Git for you can just search for Git for Windows, and you can go to downloads, and after that, yeah, you can click on this Windows button, and I think it will be download actually. Okay, so since I have download already, so I'm not going to install it again. Okay, so this is something basic thing only. So maybe in your DevOps work, right, so you will be installing many local setup in your machine. So maybe you have to try by yourself. So for example, this is the first time, right? That is fine, but you will be installing many maybe the application in your local machine, like maybe if the dev team asks you to maybe the SQL Server or the Oracle, or maybe the Kafka, and so all the installation related thing, right? So if the dev team is facing any kind of issue, they will reach out to you only. So that, yeah, maybe you can just try by yourself. Maybe the at initially, right, maybe you will be having so much of problems, and you also will be thinking like redirect to some other wrong thing, but that is totally fine. But when you are trying multiple things, right, you will be understanding. So if you have a direct answer, right, like how to install the Git, so you can find that one, but you can just try by yourself, so that you will be running into many issues, and from there you can have the many learnings and all. Okay, so for example, let's say like I have downloaded, and then I have just you can just double click on it, so it will be installed. So for example, we need to make sure, right, so whether the Git is installed or not. So you can just to open the CMD, and you can just run git -v. So this is not the valid command. Okay, so git hyphen hyphen version. So here it is showing like yeah, so this is the version we have already installed. Okay, so for example, maybe what I am going to do now is for example, let's, maybe you are good with the git installation, right? Maybe if anyone having a issue, then you can let me know, maybe I will respond to you. So team, everyone is good, right, on the git installation?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, okay. So for example, uh, so maybe these are all the basic commands. Okay, so mostly, right, you will be using these commands only, like when init, clone, add, commit, push, pull, and merge. Maybe when you are maybe if there is any specific scenario, like you want to revert the particular commit, or so in those scenarios, maybe you will be using the revert, reset, the restore related commands. So there are many commands available. Okay, but even I also know some little so some of the few commands only I know, but totally it is fine. So you need to understand the concept and the basic maybe the commands, you should know how it is working and all. But if you are facing any kind of issue, then you can search, and maybe since you have the basic idea of the git, then you can find the solution easily. Okay, maybe yeah, so for example, these are all the basic commands. Okay, so for example, the git init, it will do the maybe the repository initiation in your local machine. Okay, so this is the init command. So for example, um, so I will open some, so I'm, so for example, so this is my folder. You can consider like a working directory. Okay, the working directory means, right, so here only I am so this is the directory I am going to work, maybe develop all the code, maybe so I will say why I am saying it like working directory. Maybe in the git, maybe they will have the terminology. So what is the working directory, staging directory, local repository, so we should know that. So you can just think like maybe this is my working directory, because here only I'm going to initialize the repository, I'm going to make a changes and all. Okay, so for example, if I want to open the cmd at this path, you can just select and then type cmd and click enter. Okay, so now this command prompt is open in this path. Okay, so now what I want to try is like I want to initialize the one repository. Okay, so the first command is git init. Okay, so I have already said the init is for initializing the repository. So before you work on anything, you first needs to initialize it, so then only we can work. Okay, so for example, I am just running the git init. Okay, so now the repository is the empty, so currently, right, so we don't have any code, so maybe the this is we have initialized the empty git repository. Okay, so for example, I'm just running the dir command to see what are all the files present in this directory. Okay, so for example, I think it will create some dot folder, like dot git or some kind of folders it will create. So those are all the hidden actually. Okay, I think okay, I think we have done this one. Okay, so now you can see, right, dot git folder. Okay, so inside this folder only, so all the maybe whatever we are making the changes, right, So it will so because Git also one application for all the change, maybe the tracking, so everything, right, whatever the functionalities it is providing, so it will have all the change set inside the .git folder. Maybe we cannot understand this one, but for the just for an example I'm saying, so how the command and all work. So all because of the .git folder. So when you have the .git folder, you can easily look up the, so whenever you are running the git revert, the reset, so all the changes, right? So this is actually the system file, you can consider like system file. So for the proper operation of git, the .git folder needs to be there. So for example, if you for example I'm having the file called maybe the test, okay, test.txt file I have created, and maybe we can add some text also. Okay, so for example, this means like the test file, right? So it will the git will manage the test file. So for example, it's mean like, so inside the local repository we have the test file. Okay, so for example, if I have deleted the .git folder, it is just like another maybe file only. It's not like the git repository. Okay, so for example, if I am running a command called now I'm okay, so now I can see like the .git folder. So this is the folder it will manage by the git for all the operations. Okay, and then this is the file I have created now. So what I will do is like I'm just running the git status. So what is, so this one also one of the important command. Okay, so here it is showing like so currently we are on the master branch and there is no commits yet, because this is the one untracked file in our working directory. Okay, so for example, currently what I'm doing it like I will delete the maybe the .git folder. Okay, so currently there is no .git the git folder, but when I'm running this status, uh, so you can say like not a git repository. So you got it right what I'm meaning. So for example, to run all the command like for all the git command, so we need to have the git repository, maybe the .git folder. Okay, so sometimes, right, maybe if you want to create a new repository, then what you can do is like you can just delete the .git folder, maybe after that you can just run the git init, so it will create as the new repository. So again I'm just running this command, and now it is like it is created it. So initialize the empty repository. When I'm running this one, we will be having the git the test dot text. Okay, this is the untracked file. So we need to currently this means like it is there in the working directory. We need to move it to the staging directory, and after that we have to move it to the local repository, and from there we will be push it to the remote repository. Okay, so maybe in the next the slide, right? So for example, yeah, this is the thing. Okay, the working directory is means like my folder, so current folder, that is my working directory. Okay, so currently I have created the test.txt file. Okay, currently which is here. Okay, after that I need to run the git add command, so which means like, so from the git working directory it will move the changes to the staging area. Okay, so in between, yeah, in between the local repo and working directory, it will manage some staging area. So currently our file is staged actually. Okay, so from there, to move from staging area to local repository, we need to run the git commit. Okay, and from there onwards to push it to the remote repository, which is means like either it can be the Azure Repos or the Bitbucket or maybe the GitLab. So there we have the repository, right? To push that we have to run the git push command. Okay, so for example, we have created the test.txt file, we have added to the staging area, and then we have committed so that it is currently in the local repository, and we are pushing now, so which means like it is pushing from local repository to the remote repository. Okay, so for example, now maybe some other person, maybe other developer is coming, so they want to pull the code, so maybe they need to take the latest code from the repository, so they can just run the git pull command Okay, so that will, so they will get all the latest changes to their local repository. So after that, the same process, maybe they need to make the changes, and then the same process it will goes on. Okay, so the git fetch is like first it will bring the code changes to the local repository, and after that we need to run, then only it will come to the working directory. Okay, so mostly, right, we will be using the git pull. So if you're a beginner, you can just understand like the git add, commit, push, and then git pull command. And apart from that, the git status also you will be using in most of the time. Okay, so for example, earlier, right, we have ran the git init command. So we have initialized the repository, and then we have created the file, okay, the test.txt file, right? So currently, which is means like it is there in the working directory. Now I need to run the git add command. Okay,
Sorry, I think I missed something. So to create, what command do you use to
yeah.
create?
Um, so which one you are asking, Amos?
To create maybe that subfolder.
Okay, maybe.
I'm able to do until git init.
Okay, so after that, you need to maybe create the file, or you are asking the .git
Yeah.
folder.
So how do you create that file?
Okay, it's just like maybe normally you will be placing some files, right? Maybe it's not the, this is something version control. Okay, you can just create the Word document, or the maybe any text file, or any other files also you can manage here. Maybe it's not only mean that the Visual Studio or any other IDE only can create the file here. It's like you can just, as usual, in another directory, right, you can just create the test.txt file. Maybe another one command, maybe in the Windows, right, you can say like notepad test, maybe the sample.txt file. Okay, so this will create the new file actually. Okay, this is just like maybe other directory only. Uh, so you got it right. So you're clear or
Yeah.
still? Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is.
So
Hmm,
local. Okay. All right. I think.
yeah. Go ahead. Okay. So I think you are good. Okay. So the next one, right? Currently we have maybe it's mean like we have added some kind of changes. Okay. So the next is we need to move it to the staging area. So that in this case, I'm going to run the git add command. Okay. So for example, git add, you can give dot symbol or hyphen all, so that it will stage all the working directory, the changes to the staging area. Okay, so otherwise if you want to stage only the specific file, like so for example, currently we have the two file, right? So for example, in our yeah, the repository we have the two file, sample.txt, test.txt. Okay, so if you want to specifically move the sample.txt alone, then you have to explicitly provide the file name here, git add sample.txt. Okay, but if you want to move all the changes, you can just provide git add dot. Okay, so in this case, right, I'm going to move all the changes, so that's why I git add dot, or you can provide hyphen also. Okay, so I'm just doing that one. So when I'm running the git status command, maybe command, it's saying like changes to be committed. Okay, so currently those new files, right, it is added into the staging area. So for example, if I want to unstage it, like again I want to bring the changes to working directory, what I need to run is git rm hyphen cached, and then the sample.txt something you have to provide. Okay, so for example, we have run the git init command, we have initialized the repository, I have created one test.txt file, and so that is there in the working directory. After that, I have ran a git add command. So currently it is in the staging area. Okay. So now what I need to do is I need to run the git commit, so that it will be moved to the local repository. So for example, when I'm running this one, right, so this is new file. Okay, it is in the staged one. So now I am running the git commit hyphen m. Maybe I can say like initialize, maybe initial commit, I'm just providing it like initial commit. So you have to provide maybe the valid commit. So for example, if you are updating for any the database connection or the service connection, or if you are working on any API, okay, so that is based on your maybe commits maybe your maybe message to others understand. So what is the commit you are doing on this particular coding changes. So just like a message you are going to provide, okay. But normally, right, the best practice is like here you will provide that maybe the task ID, or maybe if you are using the GitLab issue or the Jira, right, so you will have the task maybe ID. So you have to provide like go maybe 1 2 3. So this is my task ID something, okay. So after that you have to give the space, and then you need to provide the commit message. So which means like you have to refer the your the task ID, okay. So what it will do is like when you are going to the GitLab or Bitbucket, so this link will be link enabled. So from that Bitbucket you can easily navigate to the maybe the GitLab or the Azure repo, Azure DevOps and all. So you got it right. So when you are providing in this format, the text will be link enabled when you are pushing it to the maybe the GitHub or in the repository, okay. Maybe if maybe when someone is reviewing your code, if they have some doubts in the requirement, so they can just click on that link, and then they can go to the Azure DevOps, and there they can see the what is the requirement, and whether you have maybe added the code correctly, or so something like they can verify it, okay. And then I'm just providing some of the maybe the commit message. So you can provide some of the meaningful one, okay. It's just for an example, I'm providing it like initial commit. So you can provide it like maybe I have modified the database connection, or maybe some wrapper class I have added. So that is based on your user story you are working on, okay. So I'm running the git commit one. Yeah. So currently, right, the two files changed, and then two are insertions. Okay. If there is any deletion means it will show minus sign and all. So yeah. So currently we have committed those two changes to the local repository. So when I'm running the git status command, so currently nothing to commit. So our working tree is clean, our working directory, right? So we don't have any changes. Okay. So for example, what I am trying to do again is like I will open the test.txt, and then I will modify some of the text. Okay. Maybe AZ400 training. Okay. So I have modified the text. Then you need to see whether it is displaying here or not. So now I am doing the running the git status. So now you can see like the test.txt file is modified, okay. So the same similar process you have to do. So this changes, right, currently it is there in the working directory, and I want to move it to the staging area, and after that I need to commit so that it will be moved to the local repository, okay. Maybe I'm saying like added the comments for, maybe added the comments or something, okay. So currently, right, maybe the one deletion, maybe the one line is something deleted, one line is added, right. So that is why one file is changed, and inside that one insertion and one deletion. So this is the something new line, right. So that is why it is showing like here, okay. So currently our all of the changes, right. So when I'm running this one, so there is no further changes. I'm maybe good to push it to the remote repository. So currently, right, we don't have any repository. uh, so for example, currently still we didn't create any branches in the Azure repos, right. So maybe next we will create the repository in Azure, and maybe we will push our changes from local to remote, okay. So you are good with this, right, team? Like maybe if you have any doubts in this one, yeah, you can ask me. Maybe the remote repo, yeah, we will see in the next one, maybe the next slide, right, maybe we can see that one. So there the remote repo, we will create the repository in Azure DevOps, and maybe we will push our local repository to the remote repository. So in between, if you have any doubt, yeah, you can ask me now.
Selva, this is Ramo Selva. So today I was looking out for some tutorials on the Git, and they were using the Git Bash. So is it like totally different than what you are showing on the command prompts?
Okay, so for example, right, maybe so to access the Git, okay, so there are multiple ways. Even so, there are there are some GUI also, right? The Git Bash GUI also that is there. So when you are working on the maybe in a Windows machine, right? So mostly by default it will choose the command prompt. Okay, so for example, I can run the same command in the Git Bash also, like. So both of them are same only, Amos. Okay. So here, right, the
Okay.
Git Bash. So for example, I am opening the Git Bash here. So here it is providing multiple ways. You can open the Git GUI. So, but there we will have some limited operations only. But from the command only, we will have most of the operations. Okay. So earlier I have done using the Git command prompt. So you can use the Git Bash also. So I have run the Git Bash, and you can run the same similar command like so currently it is showing, right? So the under the documents we have the Git folder. I'm just running the same command, Git status. Okay, the same thing. Okay,
Okay.
so both of them same only, Amos. Okay, it's nothing
All right.
different. It's just a way of thing like the Git Bash, right? It is more or less similar to the Linux system. Okay, the Bash and all there only we will use, right? So similar kind of UI and all will be there, but the Git command prompt also, yeah, we can use. And still, if you are good with PowerShell, you can maybe run the same thing in PowerShell also. So there are multiple ways. Maybe the command prompt, PowerShell, and then yeah, Git Bash, and then they have the GUI. And also, right, when you are going with some other IDE tools like maybe the Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, and maybe maybe there are many tools, right? So there also they will have similar kind of integration in the Eclipse and all. They will have the integration. So even there also you don't need to run any commands. So from that tool itself you can commit, maybe adding the staging, everything you can do. But in the back end, right, it will run the commands of whatever we have run now. So you are okay, Amos?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I was just checking like whether is there any other different
yeah,
advantages in using Git Bash. That's what I
yeah,
was
yeah,
looking for.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, team. So
So,
yeah,
yeah, one question.
yeah, yes,
So
ma'am.
how do we use this Git on Visual Studio?
Okay. So mostly, right, yeah. So I think there they will have the maybe the GitHub integration. So some of the mostly, right. So all the IDEs they will have the Git integration enabled. So otherwise, maybe we will have some marketplaces, right? We need to run. We need to install as the plugin. Okay. So maybe you can just to try to clone the project. Maybe I will say like. I think this is okay. Yeah. So for example, Meprot, so when you are maybe creating a new project, right? At the time, it will ask you the following things: whether you want to create a new project or you want to clone a repository. So if you have already the repository, right, you can just choose the clone repository and you can provide the Git URL. And yeah, so from there, yeah, it will clone it, and then it will set up all the working directory and all. Otherwise, maybe when you're creating a new project, right, it will automatically initialize the repository. And maybe if you want, yeah, you can yeah, maybe you can push it to the remote repository. Okay, so for example, in the left, maybe the left bottom right, you will see, I guess, what are all the changes you are doing. But I think the Visual Studio, I know, so it will have the default the built-in support for the Git. maybe for other tools, I don't know, maybe we need to install some plugins. Yeah, but that is possible only. You can just research on this method. Maybe if you have any doubt, let me know. Yeah, we will see that again.
Sure.
But mostly it is simple only. Okay, so whether you are want to clone a repository, and this is for the existing project, it is already hosted in the repositories. Okay, but when you are creating a new project, right, at the time also, maybe you will have the solution file, project files and all, right? So so all those files and all, it will be initialized, and then yeah, it will be managed in the local repository. When you're creating a new project also, it will initialize the repository. So it's simple only. So for example, right, yeah, so you are able to see this kind of screen in your IDE method.
Yeah, I'm able to see that solution, everything,
Yeah,
also the
maybe in the below,
masters
right?
and
Yeah, in the below,
but
you
I'm not, yeah, those masters and branch, but I'm not able to see any Git on top. So I was like wondering
okay.
if
So the
that they
master,
give.
yeah, I think mostly, right, this is the repository name, okay, and then this is the number of changes, and this is your current branch. You can just click on it. You can move it to, you can change it to another maybe branches as well, and I think yeah, that is easy only. Yeah, maybe, yeah, otherwise we will see.
Okay.
Okay, otherwise, right, I
Yeah.
think they will
Can
have
you
the Git
give me
and all.
that? Yeah, link.
Yeah, so you want this one?
Thank you. I might come up with first later on. Thank you.
Okay, team. So currently, right? So team, you are good on the local repository part, right? So the basic things you are understood, like add, commit, git push. Okay. So the next one, we will create the repository in the Azure repos, and then we'll see. Okay. So for example, I am opening the so team, are you facing any difficulties in creating the DevOps free account? So that also the straight thing only. Maybe you want to create the Microsoft account, and you just want to follow the steps that I have shared in the mail. Okay. So maybe that one you don't need any tutorial on this one. So you can just try. So anyone have created the Azure DevOps account?
I have created one.
Okay.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, okay, team. Yeah, cool. Okay. So for example, maybe Azure 400 training. Okay. So this is the organization. Maybe I'm going to create one. So this is the project we have created. So Microsoft .NET project. Okay. So we already seen that. So the repos. Okay. So team, the mostly, right. So we will be working with the repos, pipelines, and then maybe in the artifact. Okay. The test plan, mostly the maybe the QA team, they might work, and then the boards, so everyone will work, like maybe everyone in the team, right, the QA dev team, and everyone will work. But most of the configuration and all, right, we don't need to maybe worry about anything, even if you are not clear on something. Okay, maybe the agile or scrum, so that is not maybe anyway, it's not our work. So mostly, right, the backlogs and all the product owner will take care, and then the sprint and all the scrum master. But some of the queries and all, maybe we can see, maybe if we have all the knowledge, that is fine. But still, if you're not aware, you don't need to worry, but that's not our maybe primary responsibility. Okay. Maybe if you are a senior person, maybe you are already having the more than 10 years of experience, if they're asking you to work on both project management and then the DevOps, maybe at the time, maybe definitely those concepts you need to know. But apart from that, as a DevOps engineer, you don't need to worry about anything. So mostly like repos and pipelines, and then the artifacts only you will be working. And apart from that, yeah, you will be working with many tools integration, right? Like the Teams, Slack, and then maybe your deployment platform would be either can be Azure or any database. Okay, so those kind of integration you might needs to work, but you don't need to worry about any other stuffs and all. Okay, so for example, this is the repository. So this is the service in the Azure DevOps portal to create the Git repositories, because when we are creating the projects earlier, right, it is asking which source control system needs to be followed. Like if I am mentioning as the TFVC, we can create the TFVC related repository only, I think we can create, but we have chosen the Git, I guess. So for example, yeah. So this is the default repository. Whenever you are creating the projects, right? So it will create the default one. Maybe you can create the n number of repository also. You can import from maybe another, maybe the GitHub, GitLab, or some other places also. You can create it. Okay. So for example, yeah, okay team. So we will okay team. So the next one, right? So for example, whenever we are creating the project, so it will by default it will create the one branch, okay, with the same project name. Maybe you can create the new repository also. Maybe you can import from other places also. Okay. So for example, this is the repository it's created. Okay. So for example, there are four options, maybe this one is the clone to your computer. Okay, the empty repository, right? If you are following this command, it will maybe we can clone the empty repository, because currently we don't have any code with the Microsoft .NET project. The next one is like push an existing repository from command line. Okay, so for example, we have already one repository, and that we want to push it to maybe this branch. Okay, so that is the next one, push an existing repository from command line. Okay, the another one is the import repository. Maybe the import can be from any one of the maybe the Git server like GitLab, GitHub, or maybe on-premise Git server also. Okay, and apart from that, the next one is we can just initialize the branch here. That's it. Okay, like the readme file. So when we are initializing the maybe with this maybe command, so we can just like the readme files, and then the .git ignore file will be added. So for example, the .git ignore file means, so if you are working on the C++ or any the Python or so any kind of projects you can select, and accordingly it will add the .git ignore file, so that only the source code only will be pushed to the repository. So for example, right, maybe when we are working any project, maybe we will run the build, compile, and then we will test the application locally also, right? So when we are doing those kind of actions, it will create some temporary files like a bin folder, temp folder. So those things and all, it will be created inside the project directory. So those files and all, we should not be pushed to the repository. The only the source code, maybe the project file, and then the list of the dependencies information only we need to push it. So apart from that, there is no the temporary files, any the dependency, the DLL, or any kind of the libraries, those and all we should not be pushed to the repository, because that will again it will slow down and all. So that's not a good practice. Only your source code only it should be there. Okay, and maybe here you can just say which option we have to say, because currently we have the empty maybe we have created one local repository, so that code we need to push it to the Microsoft .NET project, this repository. So apart from the four, maybe which one we have to select? So any guess on this one? So team, any guess? Maybe which option we have to go? Whether the clone to your computer, or push an existing repository from command line, or import a repository, initialize a maybe main branch with the readme. My requirement is just like I have the local repository, okay, that I want to push it to the remote one. So which one I need to, which command I have to use?
So that should be push, right?
I thought it's 10 minutes.
Sorry, I think the voice is breaking to me. So can you please come again?
Sorry, I just joined. I thought it's 10-minute break.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Yeah, okay,
follow
my
you.
God. Yeah. So
What is it?
almost, can you try? So which one we have to choose here?
Yeah, there is a push, right? So
Yeah,
because
correct.
that's where like you're going to push from.
Yeah, so correct. So if there is any code is there, if you want to clone, then we have to use this one. So maybe we have the repository already. So we just want to maybe push that repository from here. Okay, so for example, I'm just to copy this command. There are two commands here, right? Like you can see git remote add origin. So this is the one. So I'm going here and I'm just running this command git remote add origin. So which means like maybe it is just setting up the remote URL for the local repository. So this is the remote URL. Okay, so when I'm just running. Okay, the next command is git push -u origin -all. Okay, so we just need to push it to the the remote repository. I'm just running it. Maybe it will ask you the credentials and all. We'll see how it is asking.
So you have created new repository or just
No.
do
So for example, yeah,
this
whenever
one?
we are creating the project, right, by default, it will create a one repository. The same thing I'm using. Maybe you can create the new repository also by using this option.
But you are using which one? The
Yeah,
import.
I have just used the default one because whenever you are
Oh,
creating the project, right, it will create the new repository with the same name. I'm just using this one. Maybe if we want, we can create a new repository also, right? So for example, in the same project, we will have a many repositories, like one for Java backend, maybe the React front end. So there are many repositories we need to create. For just an example, I'm using the default one. Okay, maybe you can delete this one also. If you don't want to use the default one, you can delete this one. Maybe you can create as the new branch also. Okay. Okay, team. So currently, right, I have just run the git push -u origin -all. So this is the private repository, right? So we have to enter our credentials, then only it will work. So okay, so I have signed in. So currently, right, because even I need to be member of the project also. Maybe you can, if you are using any other, if you're logging with your Microsoft account, it definitely it won't work because I'm the member of the project. Maybe in the when we go to project settings, so you can see my email ID as the one of the member. So even I'm having the contributor access something. So that is why I'm able to log into the project and it will push it actually. So currently, right, when I'm running the git push -u origin this command, so this push operation has been completed. So if I am just a refreshing the page, you can see the code. It's the code means, right, so in our case just two files like sample.txt and test.txt something. Okay, so for example, this is the commit and you can click on the commit. Yeah, you can see, I think earlier, right, in my yeah, I think my name is earlier I have set it like cloud renovate something. So that's why it's showing like here, but we can configure the name also. I think git origin. Yeah, so this is the command. Okay, so for example, so my name, I'm just updating it like Selvan, and my email ID, it's like yeah, so before doing any commit or pushing, right? So you can just configure the this one. Maybe before cloning this one, you can just run this command so that your name and email and all will be configured. So currently, right? So currently I have set it up the name and email ID. So currently just now I'm trying to change any of the code, like okay, I'm just for an example okay, so just this file is modified, and so the next one I'm just maybe staging these changes and running the git commit. I'm just for an example I'm providing the comments, but you have to provide the maybe uh, the reasonable maybe the text you have to provide. I'm just running the git push. I think first time only you have to provide the git push hyphen u origin and all. The next time you can just push, you can just run the git push. Okay, so since I have logged in first time, so I don't need to log in again and again. Okay, so for example now when I'm refreshing the pages, uh, I think one more commits also it should be there. Yeah. So this is the one, right? So this commit I have just committed. So when you can click on the particular commit, you can say like cell1 is committed. The name it is showing it like cell1. Okay. I think from that git the command line, right? You can look up the email also. Maybe I think currently it is not providing the email actually here, but you have the option in command line and all, you can look up the email of the person also. So for example under the repos we will have the files, commit, pushes, branches, tag, pull request. So the files, so just like your working directory, right? Maybe in our folder structure it will display all the files, and then the history also, yeah, it will provide like this one. And the commit means what are all the commits we have done so far, like here you have the drop down for the branches also, but currently we have only one branch, so that's why we don't have any other thing. And then the pushes, yeah, I think so far we have pushed 2 times, right? So those information you can get. And the number of branches, so here we have the only one branch. And the tag means so for example the tagging means, so you can tag the particular commit. Okay, so you have completed the maybe in your real time scenario, right, in the project life cycle, so you have completed the code development for the release 2.0 or 3.0 something. So you need to track it, right? So what you can just do is like you can just go to the particular commit, and then you can create the tag on this one. I think, I don't know, here we will have the, yeah, so here we will have the option, right? So for example maybe this is the final code for the release 2.0. So just for an maybe the maybe the identification purpose, I'm just creating the tag like this is the release uh, 2.0 something. Okay, I think the tag cannot contain, okay, dot or space. Okay, I think it's not accepting this space. Okay, so I'm just creating the tag for the particular commit. Okay, I'm just saying like final code for release 2.0. Okay, I'm just creating it. So once I have created, you can see the tag here. So far I have created the only one tag. So maybe you can easily look up the particular commit. So otherwise, right, you want to go to the particular commit and you want to search based on the maybe the message we have provided. So that is something complex, right? Maybe in your real time scenario, maybe you can just create the tag. Maybe that will be easy to understand. Okay. So for example, the next thing is like maybe currently we have only one branch, so that we cannot raise any pull request so far. So for example, right, what I'm doing is like I'm just creating a one new branch. Okay. For example, the new branch name is future and maybe some service layer we are working on. Okay, maybe I'm just for an example I'm providing this branch name, and then the based on maybe this is the branch you want, from this branch only you are going to create. And after that you can refer the maybe the work items also. Okay, so for example, so this is for this work item only I'm going to create. Okay, so it is automatically linked for the particular branch. I'm just creating it, and I'm going here, and then I will just modify some changes here. So even you can directly modify in the web also, but that's not the preferred one. But just for an example I'm showing. Okay, so for example I'm just updating like login screen. Okay, so completed the login screen. Okay, so currently you have completed the login screen in the future branch. Okay, so this code is not merged to master branch yet. So what you should do is, for example, you need those changes needs to be present in master branch, right? So you have to raise the pull request and then maybe ask someone to review it. And once they have approved it, then you can merge with the master branch. Okay, so for example, I'm clicking on the pull request now. Okay, so I think you updated future service just now. Okay, so I'm just clicking on the create a pull request, or you can create from here also. Okay, so for example I'm just open this one. So I'm getting like what are all the commits I have done, what are the files changes I have made. Like instead of sample, I think I have added login screen something, and this is the commit who done. I think Tamil Selvan Sellapan has done this one. Okay, and then for example in the overview, yeah, I think the reviews, right? So currently I am the only the person in the project, so that I cannot invite any others. Yeah, maybe if you have any other reviewers, yeah, you can add them. Okay, so this is the work item for the quick reference, and maybe if you have any tag you can provide, otherwise you can just create it. Okay, so for example currently we have raised the one PR from future branch to the master branch. Okay, you can see the files, updates, comments, everything. Even they can provide some of the comments, and once they have provided the comments, we have to push it, maybe fix it, and then we need to push it. Maybe if you think like maybe you have verified all the things, so I think everything is okay. So at the time maybe you can just approve. Okay, otherwise you will have the option for reject, and for all the other options also you are having. Okay, but conceptually maybe we should not, maybe I am the person, I am making the changes, but I should not approve the changes, right? But those kind of things, yeah, we can configure in the branching policies, that we can comes in the next one. Okay, so for example I have approved the changes. Okay, I think I got the approval. I think here we will have option to merge. I think. Okay, so currently what it will do is like it will just run, do the merge request if I'm completing. I think so. This is some of the other option of merge. Okay, I think how they will do the commit and all, but mostly, right, we will be using the merge options only. Okay, so even in my projects everywhere I'm using merge, but some places maybe we might need to use other option, but mostly it is goods to go with merge. Okay, I'm just clicking on merge, and so here you have the option. Okay, so for example this is the maybe main branch, and this is the maybe the future branch, and finally you are merging back with the master branch. Okay, the post completion, what you need to do. Okay, so for example once you have merged, automatically it will close the task in your board, in your task board, right? It will automatically completed, maybe it will update as the completed after merging. And then once we have updated the code, maybe with the main branch, we don't need this future branch again, so that we can just delete this one. Okay, and maybe if you want to maybe customize the commit message, maybe we can provide, but otherwise mostly we don't need. Okay, but so those two options you should just needs to know. Okay, so once we have completed the merging, it will update as the completed, and once the merge is completed, we want to delete the future branch. So because that's we don't need, right? So because for every future we will create a branch, maybe then it will be something like more than 50 branches and all we need to manage, so that's not the good practice. So at the time we should have the main branches, and apart from that, what is the current branch you are working on it. Rest of the branches we have to clean up maybe immediately. Okay, so that I don't want this branch, so I'm just completing this merge. Okay, so it's done. So when I'm clicking on the branches, here we can see master branch only. I'm not seeing the future branch that we created before. Okay, and then in your maybe commits also
So
you can see.
when you say featured branch, is it baseline or what is that exactly?
Yeah, so for example, when I have chosen the one option, right? When I'm completing the merge, we have to delete the branch. So that is why after completing the merge, the branch is deleted so that it won't show here.
Meaning it's after you sync
Yeah.
and
So once I have completed the merge, right? So once that is successful, so for example, those changes currently added in the master branch. Okay, the login screen, you can see the changes, right? Because that is updated here in the master branch, so that we don't need the branch. So that's why I have deleted it. So you got it, Mabrot, or maybe otherwise I will create a one more branches also. So for example, I'm creating a new branches, maybe feature something.
so what I was trying to understand is these branches, is this, I mean, different developers create their own branch
Yeah,
and
yeah, correct.
do
Yeah. So that will be
okay.
their own branches. So for every future story or every user story or every features they are working on it, right? So they will be create a new branch, and from that branch only they will make the code changes, and after that they will merge with the main branches. So once that is completed, they will delete the future branch. Then again, if they want to work on new task, then they will create a maybe new branch from the master. Okay.
Okay. So is this like merging branch will be after several tests,
Yeah, maybe after
or we
merging
are
we will be deleting this one. Maybe we don't need. Maybe if I'm not checking that option, right, maybe we will still have the branches, but that is not used, right? Because I am already maybe merged the changes with the main branches, so that I don't need the reference of the future branch. I have worked on it. Otherwise, it will make the confusion only.
okay.
Yeah. So, okay, team. So you are good this one, right? So the next one is maybe we will see how to configure the branching policies. Okay. So for example, what I have did is like directly I have pushed the changes to the master branch from my local machine. So for example, I'm directly I can edit the changes. Maybe I am just deleting the test file. Okay, that is my coding change something. Okay. uh, Git add, then deleted the test file, and then git push. Okay, so currently what I'm doing, like I am currently on the master branch. Okay, in that master branch I have deleted the one file. Maybe you can consider like it's a source code. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push the changes. Okay, so now you can tell me whether it will allow or not. I have deleted the source code. Okay. Now I am trying to, I have committed the changes. I am trying to push it to remote now. So you can you can just say your opinion whether if I am pushing the code to remote, whether it will update or not.
If we don't have any policy defined on the Azure, then yes, I would expect the test file will be deleted on the repo.
Yeah, correct, Amos. Yeah. So far, right, we are not configuring any kind of policies. Okay. So for example, I'm just pushing it now so that it will delete the file in the master branch. Okay, so for that reason, so to protect the branches, we have the branching the policies and security option is there. Okay, so for example here, yeah, so here in the branching policies, right, if I'm enabling the those things, you cannot do the direct push. Okay, for any update to this branch, it will be happen only through the pull request. Okay, so if you are doing through pull request, right, then yeah, maybe someone needs to review the changes. If I'm deleting some of the important files, then definitely maybe the peer developers, they will find, and then they will reject the pull request, so that our branches will be safer. Okay, so for example, I'm just saying it like how many member of reviewers needs to be there. Okay, so for example, uh, maybe I can say two. Okay, maybe mostly the one is fine, but that is based on your requirement only. Okay, maybe based on the project nature, maybe you can choose one, two, or three also, but I think one is fine. Okay, and allow requester to approve their own changes. Okay, the last time, right, I have made the changes, and then I have approved the pull request also, so that also we should not allow, so that's not a good practice. So that's just I'm enabling this one also. And uh, and here prohibit the most recent pusher from approving their own changes. Yeah, this one also. Okay, and allow completion even if some reviewers wants to wait or reject. Okay, maybe the two persons are approved, maybe one person they are changed the state like wait or reject, so at the time we can do the commit, maybe the complete the merge or not. So when new changes are pushed, what we'll do, so those kind of policies, yeah, we can set it here. And then check for link items. Okay, so for example, when we are creating the branch or the pull request, right, it is asking which task you have worked on it. So sometimes, right, you will just randomly raise the pull request, so that we don't have any track, right. So for what maybe the task we have raised this PR, so that maybe those things we can just enable it, so that they need to provide the task number, maybe they have to tag the task. Apart from that, maybe they cannot maybe complete the PR. Okay, and then check for comment resolution, check to see that all comments have been resolved on all pull requests. Okay, so this is something like the reviewer has provided some comments, and you have to maybe complete all the comments. So otherwise, even if any one of the comments are not you have done, then definitely maybe we cannot complete the merging. Okay, uh, yeah, so control branch history by limiting the available types of merge when pull requests are completed. Yeah, so this is one also we are not using most of the time. Control branch history by limiting the available types of merge when pull requests are created. So we have many merge type, right? So the normal merge and then squash merge something. So there are many things. Yeah, maybe that we will see. I think mostly I didn't use that one. Maybe we'll see this one later. And then the build validation. So for example, you have completed the code and then you have pushed it to the repository. So at least we should have the successful build. So then only we can even the reviewer is completed. So still maybe the build has to be completed. And then the status check something like maybe you can integrate with Sonar and all the Sonar related thing, right? Maybe the all the coding practices should be clean, like there should not be any vulnerabilities or higher issues, the blocker or any kind of issues it should not be have. So at the time only, yeah, those kind of the status check, yeah, we can add here. And then automatically included reviewers. So by default, right, maybe when we are raising the pull request, and we will be able to add the maybe the reviewers, maybe by default, if it wants to populate. So at the time, right, you can select some of the reviewers here, so whenever they are raising the pull request, so it will automatically add their name. So and apart from that, you can still modify something and all. Okay, and this is what the branching policy, but mostly, yeah, you have to understand like the number of the reviewers something, and yeah, so only these are the things we will be mostly using. And apart from that, the another thing like branching security. Yeah. Uh, so here the inheritance, right? The inheritance means maybe whatever the project level settings we have, so that will be inherited to this repository as well. So but apart from that, if there is anything over thing maybe we need to do, then we can do. So for example, what we can say, like these are all the maybe the roles already available in the Azure DevOps. Okay, so for example, I'm just selecting my name, and then bypass when completing pull request. Bypass policies when completing pull request. Okay, maybe you can just allow or deny for some of the cases, right? Maybe since you are maybe the release engineer, maybe maybe the managers or the peer reviewers, they won't be available. So at the time, when you have the bypass policies, maybe the option enabled for you, you can complete it without any approval or something, so it will be enabled for you alone. But mostly, right, like administrator something, maybe we can say, so maybe they will have the full permission something. The contribute and all the developer, I guess, and force push and remove other locks. Yeah, so mostly we won't be using this option, but you can just understand, like maybe if there is any anything we need to override, maybe we need to bypass the policy something here, yeah, we can do that here. Okay, bypass policies when pushing, and contribute, edit policies, and force push and remove others. Yeah, so those things, yeah, we can do. Maybe either you can select the groups here, or otherwise the individual the users also. Okay. Okay, team. So I think, yeah, we have just seen, we have created the repository from the local, and then we have moved to staging and then the local repository, and we have created the maybe we didn't create a new repository because it's already default one. If you want to create a new repository, right, so you can just uh, yeah, you can just choose. I think here also you have the option. Maybe if you want to create TFS, maybe Team Foundation Version Control, you can select the option here as well. And then uh, the repository name, like maybe I'm just providing like account service. Okay, and then the readme, maybe just for a documentation purpose, if any new developers are coming, right, if they want to set up the local, like what are all the things needed to run the build of this project, so those kind of help documents they can add in the readme. And then the dot git ignore also you need to understand. So for example, I'm creating a new branch, right? So for example, I would say maybe C Sharp or .NET, maybe Visual Studio, I guess. Yeah, I'm just choosing the Visual Studio. It means like maybe in Visual Studio we can develop the .NET application, right? So whenever we are maybe running the build, compile and all, it will create some temporary files. So that should not be added into our repository, right? So for that, those maybe the temporary files, everything needs to be excluded from the repository. So that's why we are adding those definitions in the .git ignore file. So I'm just creating a .git ignore file for Visual Studio. Okay, I'm just click on create. So you can see. So it will be based on the tool. Maybe if it is the Visual Studio, it will create the default one. Maybe if we have choose to some other thing, maybe the excluded file will be different. Okay. So for example, the debug, the release folder, so those things and all, the temporary related one when we are running the build, right? So those things and all, it won't be pushed to the repository actually. Okay. These are all the test execution files. Okay. So that's maybe it is good to add the .git ignore file. So otherwise, maybe for every time, right, you have to maybe unstage those changes, and then we need to push it. So that also not a good idea. So that's why for based on the IDE or the technology you are working on it, accordingly you have to update the .git ignore file. Okay. So okay, team. So if you have any queries, yeah, you can ask me.
So that gate ignore.
Yeah.
is related with any Visual Studio files.
Yeah. So for example, I'm just to saying one example. Okay. So for example, I'm just creating the .git ignore file here. Okay. So inside that, maybe I want to maybe exclude the cell1.txt file. Okay. So even if I'm adding the file in the working directory, it won't detect this file because I'm here I'm mentioning it like in the ignore file list. Okay. So for example, currently I'm just running git status. Okay. There is I think we have this thing, right? We can just commit it. Okay. So now I'm going to add the cell1.txt file.
It's created.
Okay, just for an example I'm saying. Okay, so now if I'm running the dir command, so the cell1.txt file is there. So now maybe you can say if I'm running the git status command, what it will show. So for example, right, still it is saying it like the our working directory is clean, which means like even I'm adding the cell1.txt, it is not considering this one. Okay, so otherwise, right, what I'm doing it like I'm renaming it like cell1.txt. So you can tell me now whether it will detect the file or not. Maybe not, because in the dot
I
git
don't
ignore,
think
right,
it
so we
works,
have
right?
asked that one to exclude cell1.txt file alone, but now we changed it to cell1.txt, right? So that if I'm running the git status, yeah, it will show in the untracked file list, so that we can add and then commit to push it to the repositories. So now you understood the .git ignore file, right? Because I'm just for an example, I have excluded the
So,
file,
yeah.
but in your
So
real,
in the real scenario, why we are using this is like, let's say if we don't want to
yeah,
any developer to
yeah. Yeah, that is fine. So
commit
for
or
example, yeah, I got your question. So for example, you are creating some .NET application. Okay. So there, when you are running the build command, so what are all the temporary files it will generate? Apart from your source code, it will be there. Apart from that, what are all the folders it will create? It will create the bin folder, object folder and all, right? The release folder and all within the same project folder. So you are getting my point, Mebrot. So for example, whenever you are building the project or the compiling it, so it will create some temporary files like object folder, bin folder, or a target folder. Okay, so those folders will be created, but that we don't want to check in with the remote repository. So that's not the good practice, right? We don't want to maybe check in the unnecessary code and all. It's not going to help anyway, right?
right.
So to exclude that only, we are adding the .ignore file. So maybe here we can say like maybe the target folder needs to be excluded. I think the target and then slash, I guess. Maybe if you are saying like build slash, so whatever the files inside the target folder and build folder, it will ignore that one. So it won't add it in the repository. So that is the main idea behind the git ignore file, my broad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you are clear on this one, right? So team,
Yeah.
is there any other queries? Okay team, I think you are good, I guess, and we will move to, so the next team, so I think we have completed the Azure Repos demo. Maybe in your maybe as a lab, you can just try. Maybe I have just used the sample files, right? maybe you can just try to push your maybe the real-time codes, like you can just initialize some projects, .NET or Python something, and then you can push it to the remote repository, and then you can see so how it is working and all. But anyway, yeah, you can try whatever the operation you want so that you will have more understanding. Okay, so the next one is the continuous inspection. Okay. uh, Yeah. Okay, team. So currently, right, so we have seen the source control. Okay. So you can assume it like you have, we have the some kind of the source code is pushed to the source control. Okay. So maybe we don't know whether the code is quality or not. So maybe how we can ensure that. So for that reason only, the continuous inspection is coming into that place. So for example, every check-in you are made to the Git repository, right? So you need to scan the code, and then maybe the pull request reviewer, right? They need to review your code. So then only maybe the mistaken code and all, it won't go to the repository. Okay. So for the review, the manual review, the PR review is fine. Okay. Apart from that, what are all the tools we can integrate with pipeline, so that always we can ensure that in that main branch we have the good code. So for example, there is no maybe vulnerability something. Okay. So for example, so which means like the continuous inspection means constantly scanning your code for defects. Okay. For example, there are many tools, right? Maybe the Sonar Cube, and maybe the black duck, and then cast highlight check marks. So there are many tools are there. By just integrating with our build pipeline, so it will take the source code as the input, and then it will scan all the possibilities, and then it will throw the metrics, maybe what are all the issues and all that. So for example, one example, maybe the constant name. Okay, so for example, constant name, it should be in the capital letter. So that is the standard in all the language, I guess. Okay. But if you're not following the standard, so if you are providing in some kind of maybe the lowercase letter means, maybe that one also, maybe we are not following the standard, right? So those kind of issues and all, the maybe the code scanning tools mostly it will detect, and then yeah, it will maybe we can see the results in the portal, and after that we can fix that one. Okay. So for example, if we have maybe after the scanning, if we have any issues, then we should not allow them to merge in the main branch, that is the master branch. So that is why if there is any maybe the problem is with the source code, we have to fail the build so that they cannot merge with the main branch, so that yeah, so that is the main idea. So this is maybe it will improve the quality of code, because for every build, for every code check into the repository, maybe we can run the build maybe automatically as part of the build pipeline. We can just yeah, we can just scan, maybe we can just integrate all the scanning tools. Okay. And the requirement will be the based on the severity of the project. Maybe I'm just saying one more example. Okay. So if your application is going to deploy it within your application, within your organization network. Okay. So that we don't need much security, maybe the consideration we don't need to take care. But still, but if you have created the better quality of code, and if you don't have any security vulnerabilities not there, it's a good. But sometimes maybe they will be providing the priority based on the severity. Okay. So for example, so whatever the application exposed over internet, so that will be the very highest priority. And maybe if there is any cache related, the payment related, or any kind of the critical things, right? So they will be considered like maybe the very high priority. Maybe we can say like some kind of banking site where you are doing the internet banking, online banking and all, right? So those and all very very high secured one. Okay. But some of the application, it will be used within your organization only. Maybe for example, I'm just maybe the timesheet, maybe you can just consider like there is a one portal that can be accessed within your virtual network only, but once you came out of the network, then you cannot access that one. Okay. So that when you are comparing the severity of the both application, the banking and then payment related things, and maybe that is based on the business only. so they will give the high priority. Maybe the for all kind of scanning has to pass, then only we should be able to merge the code in the main branch. Okay, so sometimes this maybe it's not the high security, then maybe we don't want maybe all the tools needs to follow, we can just to follow the sonar cube. Okay, so there even if you have some kind of bugs or something, still it is fine. Maybe we can be move all those fix in the subsequent releases, so that they can plan like that. So that is based on the severity and the nature of the projects only. Okay, and need to reduce the cycle time if any bug or vulnerabilities. Okay, so for example, there is some issue with the code. Okay, and if maybe you have if you have detected in the development stage. Okay, so to correct that, it will just take 5 minutes. Okay, now you have moved to the QA environment, and the QA team, they have found the bug, and then they need to they need to log the incident, maybe the bug, and after that you have to see that, and maybe it will take 1 day for fixing that one. But sometimes you even the dev not find that one, and QA also not detecting the bug, but it is going till the UAT, and from there maybe you find the bug. So all because maybe how long it is taking the time to fix those issues. Okay, so we have to find those kind of issues at the earliest as possible. Okay, so that is why maybe the developer, they can have the maybe some kind of plugins enabled within their IDE, so that some of the maybe the coding standards they can find it. But some other things, right, maybe the check marks and black duck, maybe what are the tools we are using it, right? So that can be maybe we can integrate with pipeline. So when the code is there with the future branch, so there itself we have to do all the scanning. So if everything is okay, then we can merge with the maybe main branch. If there is some kind of issues, they have to fix it, and then only they can able to merge. So this is how we have to do that. Maybe the I will say maybe what are all the build what are all the scanning tools we needs to be integrate, maybe that we can discuss in the next the slide also. Okay, so this is the cycle time. So we have to reduce the cycle time. Basically, if the issue is coming from the UAT, that cost is very higher in terms of development, and then if you are doing the some modifying some of the existing thing, right, then we need to do some kind of the retesting also. So that's not good, right? So that is the thing. So we need to reduce the cycle time. So if you are getting the issues at the earliest time, then it is good. Okay, so the next is the inspections can be manual, so that also depends upon the priority. So even in my previous projects and all, even for the high priority application, even they won't believe the tools also. For each and every line, the security team or the experts, they will review, and after that only they will allow us to check in. But other maybe other application, right, maybe we don't want to follow that much of stringent maybe review process. Maybe we can just follow some complaints with the tools itself. Okay, and then the code quality, the maybe the these are all the maybe general measures like reliability, maintainability, testability, portability, and reusability. The reusability, maybe whatever the code we are writing, right, that should be reusable. Maybe in we should not duplicate it. So basically, for the same function, we have to create the general function, and if they are not following that criteria, then they will maybe the tool will detect like there are many duplication that we have to fix it. So that is comes into the reusability. And portability means if you are developing some kind of application, so that has to work for maybe the Docker platform and app services also. Maybe it's not like maybe there is some small changes can be we can do, but it should not be like we need to develop from scratch for just changing the deployment platform. So that our application should be portable for the multiple platforms also. And then the testability, how maybe well we can test the application, the complexity and all. The maintainability, maybe how easy our codes can be maintained, and maybe the others also, right, for maybe currently we are working, so that we know if any new developer is coming, so that how it will be easy to maintain those kind of things. And then reliability also, maybe how reliable, and maybe how often that maybe bugs can be maybe that is basically the reliability, we know, right? The general concepts. Okay, so this is the all about the continuous inspection. Okay, so the next thing is the next one, we will discuss the what are all the tools we will be using. Okay, so for example, we can just generally say like application security testing. So there are two types of classifications here: static application and then dynamic application. The static application means, right, it will just scan the code. It will take our code as the input and then it will do the scanning. So mostly the examples are Sonar Cube, maybe Black Duck, checkmarks, cast, highlight, and all. The Sonar Cube, the code quality, it will detect the code small duplication and test unit test coverage and all. Okay. The Black Duck, it's predominantly in the, maybe when we are creating some kind of project, right, we will be using some third-party components. So whether it is compliance to maybe the open source or not, or in their particular version, is there any security vulnerabilities there or not? So those kind of things, the Black Duck, it will give the insight. And then the check marks and cast highlight also the similar kind of the tool, so for the code quality. And then the dynamic application security testing, so this is for the scanning the application. So for example, you have deployed the application, so you have the API endpoint is maybe exposed to our internet. So whatever the maybe the real attacker they will do, right? So for example, if I want to hack some public website, maybe I will just log in through maybe the Google Chrome browser, and I will see maybe what are all the maybe the open vulnerabilities in that application. So based on that we can try to simulate some kind of attacks. So similar kind of the whatever the real attacker they will do, the similar kind of that the tool itself will do. The dynamic application security testing tool will simulate the all the possible attacks so far in the maybe IT, the security industry, something. Okay, so some of the general the issues can be SQL injection, cross-site scripting, sensitive data exposure. So there are many things are there, but we are not going much into that one. But so yeah, these are the most the yeah, I think wide known the possibility of attacks. And then for the dynamic application security testing, the example one is the I think the app side enterprise and then OWASP. So similar kind of tools are there. Even there are many other tools also can be. Okay, so what we will be doing is like in our CI pipeline, so which is a build pipeline, we will be integrating those tools also based on the requirement. Maybe some organization they will use Sonar Cube, some organization they will use Cast Highlight. So based on the tools we have and then the maybe the requirements, we will integrate all the scanning tools also within our pipeline. Okay. So team, if you have any queries, yeah, you can ask me now in the application security testing part. Yeah, maybe otherwise team, maybe so currently the time is yeah, we have almost over, right? Maybe yeah, you can just research on this topic. Maybe we will see this one tomorrow. Okay, maybe it's a late night to you all guys, right? So we can wind up the call, right team? Because currently the time is the yeah, in my time 8:30. So if you have any queries in the security, maybe continuous inspection, you can ask me. But otherwise, so we can wind up the call, then we can see those other things in the maybe the next call. So other thing is I will just explain maybe the I will just walk you through the Sonar results page. What are all the metrics it is providing? Okay. So we will walk you through the maybe the Sonar results page, maybe how to see the metrics and all, and then maybe we will see the Git at the enterprise level, those kind of branching strategy, maybe how you want to configure the branching strategy and all. Yeah, we will see in the tomorrow session. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, team. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Good night, everyone.
Right, thank you.
Right. Thanks. Happy Diwali, Selvan.
Yeah.
Happy
Thank you.
Diwali.
Hi. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.